Get it to go, people. We're on in a minute and counting.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's main event.
So what's happening, friends? It is another edition of CrazySmooth Combat Radio. We have an official name now.
Look at that.
Thanks to, I think it might have been your brother.
I don't know. Let's not give him credit for anything.
Okay, all right. It wasn't your brother. The hell with him. No, I'm just kidding. So we are here, of course, Big Smoothie, my man, Crazy Mike Musatellian, coming off of an interesting week for you, sir.
Yeah.
Obviously, now you can eat normal again for a little while.
I got a bit of a break.
Which I have a Christmas party coming up, and you're drinking.
Oh, yeah. Well,
okay.
Hopefully.
All right.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I mean, that's the game plan.
Yeah, right. So, obviously, a big win for you last Friday night. And, your eye looks much better today.
It is. Well, it's nice to be able to see and drive and stuff. Having depth perception, you really take it for granted until it's gone, man. It's one of those things. I was reaching out and knocking stuff over, and it was very sad. It was very sad.
Did anybody get that on video?
No. But going through the airport without being able to see on your left half and being a large man is...
it's not easy.
No. There's a lot of old women that you just shoulder check, and they just... There's nothing you can sorry. And they look up and they see a giant busted up face and they're like, oh my God. It's not it's not how most people spend their day.
The life of a fighter you have now, buddy.
It's unique.
Yeah, it's very unique.
Unique New York.
So let's get into the fights and where we're going here as far as next fight and all that kind of stuff. A good fight.
Yeah. You
were gassed a little bit.
A little bit. It was a bit of a rough training camp there. Towards the end, had a few injuries, can't blame it on that, but definitely didn't. The camp itself didn't go the way I wanted to. So, but more gas than him, and that's the most important part, right. I guess, is having more.
When you're going into a fight, and like you said, you had a little rough training camp. Mm-hmm. Does that play in your head as you're getting ready? You
try not to. I mean, that's part of being a fighter is learning how to not think of those things. I mean, honestly. I had hurt my back, I had hurt my knee, I had hurt my ankle all leading up to this camp. I was just, it's one of those things, you know how when you like roll your ankle really big, because I hurt it really bad. It like swelled up to like a giant balloon.
Who are you talking to, man? I have bad ankles as it is. Yeah.
Well, and then you have a bad day on the bad ankle and you start walking funny. Or you try and push through it, and then it hurts your knee, and then that hurts your back. It just goes up the line, and that's how it was.
You sure need an ice bath at home.
Oh yeah,
I got a tub for you. We can hook you up.
All right, we can. Are you offering to get in a tub with me?
No.
Oh,
sorry.
Dang.
No back rubs for you, buddy.
Dang.
Sorry. No man love. No man love.
No Nambla.
But definitely, a good fight. The first round. It was funny because obviously, and we'll play the audio here in a minute of Dennis's the greatest.
He got more famous for this than I did for having the fight. This thing kills me. After the fight, I go out, my phone turns back on and goes nuts, obviously. Right. But half of my Twitter feed was about my corner man. People are like, oh, holding this. I was like, come on now. How about a little props? But no, he was thrilled. It's good to have a guy like that in your corner keeping things. Even when things don't go the right way for you necessarily in the first round, having someone keeping it loose and groovy like that and keeping you in a good mood is really important.
Right. So. Let's go. We'll go into the audio right now. This was after the first round, and it's the best.
It was a close first round.
Exactly. Close. It was close.
I did lose it. I got clipped in the back of the ear.
Have you watched the replay of the fight?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the audio from the corner.
All right, I just want you to breathe for a minute. Hey, listen. We lost that round, but not by a lot. We lost it. Breathe, but don't worry. I hit the select button and held it down, so we got some juice now. All right, here's what I want you to do. He's jabbing you. You got predictable, okay, coming in.
And I got to tell you, man, I honestly think I laughed when he said that.
Oh, well, it was hilarious. You should have laughed.
Why were you not laughing?
Well, I was just punched in the face a few times. I was kind of irritated. Things like that going on.
Sometimes, just like football, you come off after getting smashed in the face, you just got to laugh sometimes.
Sometimes.
Right. Not so much,
Not so much at that particular moment. It was the first round of my MMA career that I lost, so the first round.
That's pretty good.
Now, I'm not talking about even, fight. I haven't lost an MMA fight. So
but that's a pretty good feat. As far you've had, 6...
pro fights and 4 amateur fights.
Right, so that's pretty good.
So far so good. This was a good fight because for me it was the first time that it didn't go all my way, so It was fun. I had a lot of fun with it, man. It was the first one that was uphill. It was a challenge. It was something you got your heart checked, Because by the end there, it was who wanted things at that point, because neither of us had much left. It got sloppy at the end, but it was fun.
Yeah, you go through the second round. Obviously, you won that round. Mm-hmm. You landed some solid shots, and then you get into the third, and you guys came out, and it was...
Oh, yeah, it was tough. But, like, the thing for me was, getting up at the second, I'm not going to lie, I was like, oh, my God, I really don't want to do this. But then I looked across the ring, and I saw him looking way more tired. I was like, okay, second wind. Now I feel good about life again.
It's
good
honestly,
is relative,
yeah,
obviously.
It's honestly pretty funny, because obviously the last fight, the way it ended, he didn't want any of that fight. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. And then this one, you kind of look at the guy, and you kind of get a gauge just on watching a guy's come to the ring, his demeanor, you know what I mean? That's like some of the guys that have been doing it for a while, they have a different demeanor. But the guys that are just getting into it, you could kind of see body language. You read his body language right off the get-go from the fight, and it was just like, I'm here.
Yeah, well, I mean, he hit me with some solid shots, and you could tell that's what he had, and it was like he was getting frustrated that I was still there,
right?
Coming into the second. I mean, things were going well for him, and then I started to land a few more shots, and then he started to fade, and it was just a gradual tide swing, and that it was really weird. It was the first experience I had where I looked across, and I was beaten up, and he was beaten up, and I could just kind of tell that he was a little more beaten up than me, and that was
Did you get that energy, that kind of energy?
It was a boost all of a sudden. You're like, yeah, all right.
Okay, I
can push through. I can do this.
I got this. Throwing the kicks, obviously, and him catching the kicks, was that something that was kind of just agitating the shit out of you?
It was definitely annoying, but the thing was, he was catching them after they hit him. So I wasn't stressing it too much. It wasn't like he was catching them and landing big shots on me afterward. He was catching them and pushing me down, and fine, whatever. If you want to jump into my guard and do jiu-jitsu, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But he chose not to. And the one time he did, I almost caught him, and that was cool. But he was a tough competitor, and he's a nice guy, too. I mean, I had a quick side story, man. Right after the fight, we're hanging out, and we both go to the doctor and whatever. And we bump into each other on the way back in because we're just going to go watch the rest of the fights. And he's like, let me buy you a beer. And we buys a beer, and we both toast to it and cheers it up and sit there and talk about the fight for a few minutes. And it's just, that's the coolest thing about this sport to me, is that two guys can just beat the ever-living piss out of each other for 15 minutes in front of thousands of people, and then afterwards go out and be good friends.
Well, you see that. Do you see that more in the younger guys, the guys who are just getting in to just have a couple fights? Because you kind of see, like you could put into the Diaz brothers, the old Tito. You would never see that happening from those kind of fighters.
You would never see that, but I think that's just because they wouldn't let you see that. Right. I think if you were at the fight, you would see that.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think people know to a certain extent what sells tickets, especially with a certain other organization to be named. There's a little bit of a push to have a character and a persona, not to just be a fighter.
The kind of the wrestling, the WWE style.
I don't necessarily agree with it. That's not my shtick. I like to go out and fight, and I'll let that do my talking. But there is a certain call to product, to create yourself as a product and to market yourself and to have a character and an attitude. And some of those names, I mean, like you talk about the Tito, you talk about Sonnen, you talk about names like that.
Yeah.
You hear these interviews and read these interviews that outside of the area, they're supposedly super nice guys, they're approachable, all this and that, but they're they're doing that because people generate size.
I just think Shale at this point, not to sidetrack, but Shale at this point is unbelievable, is not believable with the way he speaks now, because he's on TV so much, because he's doing so much of that stuff. So people are already seeing the other side of him. It's like that changeover in wrestling from bad guy to good guy, or the middle guy. You know what I mean?
It's tough because he comes out and he's very, well-spoken, and you can see that he's educated about the game as an announcer and things like that, and then he goes out and tries to play the Ric Flair.
Yeah, it doesn't
and
work.
Now it kind of, there too. But you're watching someone transition. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. It's the end of his career. He's winding down.
Absolutely.
He's got 40 fights or whatever. It's about time for him to get to the going. And so you're watching him transition from being the styling and profiling to actually sitting down wearing a suit and talking about the sport in an intellectual manner.
Not taking punches in the face anymore.
Which it's
all good.
It's a living, I guess.
Hey, it's all good. So where are we going next? Obviously 6-0 in Bellator. hopefully we get you into the light heavy tournament now.
That's what I'm looking for, but every time I'm asked, and every time I'm like, well, I'll just match up. Yeah, at this point, I'm like, all right, come on, at least put me on the main card.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Something.
Let me get some TV time.
Throw a man a bone here. But, we hope so. The season's wrapping up. They got a fight out in Atlantic City, the Rampage card there.
Which we'll talk about later on.
Yeah, and then they got one more in Pennsylvania, and then they're off until, I think, February. So I need a little bit of a breather, thank God. Heal up a little bit, and then hopefully get a call saying, hey, you're in a tournament, and that'd be cool. And
we'll go absolutely.
From there. And I'll come on your show and announce it.
There we go.
Boom.
Oh, our show.
Our show and announce
our
show now.
There you come on.
It's a mutual thing.
That's right. So we'll come back. We'll talk about, obviously, in New York, MMA is still not legal. We'll chat about that, and you have a very strong opinion on it. And
yes. Well,
I do too, but you obviously have the insides and outs of that.
I do.
So what we do now is we take little commercial breaks. I've kind of found some things that I kind of like for commercials, and they're old school commercials. So we'll roll one of those. We'll come back and we'll continue here. Crazy Smooth Combat Radio.
Hi, Max Headroom here with. Is this my guest? I heard you were big time in the old pop biz. Well, I'm going to take that as a no comment. So, nitty-gritty time. What I'm talking about, and you're not, is that more people prefer the new refreshing taste of Coke over Pepsi. Sweating? It's true. More people are, as we Cokeologists say, catching the wave. Catch it if you can. Catch the wave. Coke.
All right, we are back here at Crazy Smooth Combat Radio. Of course, my man Crazy Mike Musatelli, yours truly, Big Smoothie. And just an amazing time for MMA in general right now. 20 years of UFC, which we'll chat about that. The anniversary just happened. Obviously with Bellator and Dana's kind of bought out the majority of everybody else. But, in New York alone, though, after the years of basically the abuse that the UFC put on the nation and the working on getting back to all the rules and all that kind of stuff, legalizing MMA in New York needs to happen. We all know it needs to happen. I mean, we have some of the best venues in the country for shows. Obviously, the Dome. You're looking at HSBC, the Garden.
You're talking about small shows even.
Right.
There's amateur shows that sell out. The Holiday Inn in Liverpool that sell out. The YMCA in Oswego, that these little shows are just selling areas out. And you talk about even the War Memorial. You put some shows in there, you'll fill that place in half a heartbeat. Turning Stone would love to have them. Turning Stone, technically could have them, but you know how they have that whole thing where they will only do things in accordance with New York State law. Like they could circumvent it, but they choose not to, and it's worked out well for them there. But on a bit of the DL, yeah, that's a good thing to do on radio. But like Bellator, I've heard mumblings that they ask me whenever I'm up there, when's MMA going to be in New York? I'm like, hopefully last year, but no. They're like, yeah, we'd love to go to Turning Stone. People talk about it. Turning Stone would be a great
venue,
play, and you're talking about bringing in a worldwide promotion into upstate New York, and however much money you're talking, you're going to fill that hotel.
You're talking millions of dollars, easily.
And to a destitute state such as ours, it seems foolish. But we could get in. I could go on for days. I try and be real active in the cause. If you go to my Facebook page,
do it up,
Crazy Mike Musatelli. I usually post, where you can get active. I always post, when summer comes around, when the session starts to open up, who to email, who to contact, who to call, who to pester until this finally gets fixed.
What is the blockage right now?
Sheldon Silver. I wish I could be like, well, it's a debate about the fight. No, it has nothing to do with the sport. It has nothing, it has to do with pocketed union officials. It's a bummer. I really hate to be, like it's corrupt government, but it really is. I mean, you're talking about something that has passed through the, was it the House? I believe it's the House, not the Assembly. One of the two things it has to go through with, bipartisan support, overwhelming majority, easily going through, and then all it has to do is get to the Assembly floor for a vote, and the guy that's in charge, Sheldon Silver, the speaker, just takes it. Like, they give him the bill. They're like, look, this is the bill, and here's proof that the bill would pass if it gets to the floor for a vote. And he goes, what bill? And, like, throws it away. And he's like, nope, we don't have time to put it on the floor for a vote. I don't think it'd pass.
Right.
And people have come up to him with, like, studies saying, look, here is a sample vote that we took. It would pass if it went to the floor. And he's like, I don't think it would pass if it went to the floor, so we're not going to vote on it.
So we're allowing one man. And listen, everybody knows how I feel about politics, especially around here with our county and city. It's terrible. But so we got one.
About it,
yeah, right. We have one man that's allowing basically himself to play God in a sense on this whole issue,
just reigning supreme without anyone that can say otherwise.
Right.
But the good news is this is his last year. So. Especially with all of his, I mean, the thing that kills me is he's in the middle of, he's got like 10 different scandals where he has women rights people up in arms over him, and he's got all this. The huevos on this fellow is just staggering, because at one point a bunch of people are like, well, he's a terrible person, and we should be getting rid of him, and he goes up on stage and he's like, well, those are the people that didn't vote for me anyway, so I don't care what they say. I'm like, what?
Politicians, man.
That is gutsy, my friend.
Exactly.
I'm almost in admiration of your douchebaggery. Like, that is a high level. It just has to be.
So we're looking at this is his last year, and hopefully he gets the boot and never gets put into that whatever the hell. I don't know. I mean, all you can do is you email your local assembly people. You make the calls. You know, if you have a, I know there's a group that was like MMA Now or MMA for New York. There were a few of them. Again, they were up on my page there. They held local rallies. They held local get-togethers. Funny story from one. I was at the, I think it was MMA for New York. And the Fertitta brother, or Lorenzo Fertitta, was there, and I was wearing a Bellator hoodie, and he's talking to me, and I'm like, "This is awkward. This is really awkward." But it was cool. I'm sure.
We came together on a common cause, so you know.
I'm sure though that he knows who you are. He's a fight fan. Yeah, you know what I mean. He knows who's where and what guys are doing what. I mean,
it was cool that you could see two companies that are supposedly head to head enemies, all that. It's a common cause. You know, this is something that we can both agree is like, well, this should get fixed. This is ridiculous. That it's the only state in North America. We're not even talking about the United States anymore. Yeah. Canada has it.
Yeah.
So now it's, the whole nine, and it's just New York.
I mean, how sad is it that the light heavyweight champ,
from New York.
Obviously from New York in the UFC, and has to fight in Toronto to be something close to home,
or Jersey, and when he does that, he sells out the joint,
Yeah,
and it kills me, just absolutely mind blowing. I mean, you have Mike Mustelli, you have John Jones, you got Rashad Evans, you got Matt Hamill was
right. He's from Utica.
You talk about upstate New York, and these are some of the top fighters, but they can't fight here.
Yeah.
What's his name? Weidman went to Hofstra.
Right.
I think he's from maybe Long Island, but still New Yorkish.
Yeah.
If you put
Long
it in...
Island, the stepchild of New York.
My roommate was from Long Island. We used to call it New York's armpit. And he hated it. He used to get so mad. He's going to hear it, too, because I'm going to make him watch this, and he's going to be like, you're a jerk.
I don't like you anymore, Mike. I don't like you.
I don't play Battlefield.
But, when this, because it's going to happen. I mean, let's be honest, it's going to happen. And the influx of money into communities, the influx of because there'll be fights everywhere at that point.
There already are. If you have any connection to mixed martial arts, or even a lot of just martial arts, you can see that people are hosting all amateur shows.
Right.
And here's the loophole to it, right? They never said technically mixed martial arts is illegal. They said all combat sports are illegal except for ones sanctioned by the following sanctioning bodies. Amateur shows.
Yep.
And it was like the International Kickboxing, or ISKBA, things like that. Karate, this, that, and the other thing. And there were very specific groups that could sanction them. So now what's happening are these other sanctioning groups are coming in and sanctioning MMA fights, so that they're technically legal because it's held by an approved body.
Right.
So,
let's just real quick before we move on. Let's get into some of the amateur stuff around here. What do we have going on? Like, give a little insight to what actually is happening in the area as far as amateur fights.
Oh, there's. Do you want like the names of shows?
Sure.
I mean, there's one coming up that used to be that we kind of helped set up. It was Spirit FC. There's what's the name of the other one coming up?
Is it Gladius?
Gladius. That's a quality show. There's a Utica one. I'm trying to think that there's tons and tons of these shows, and these are shows that are going on their 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th show.
Yeah,
they're banging them out every month, every other month, and it's starting to form a really cool community that if you follow it has its own storylines. And it has like there's rematches going on, there's grudge matches, and they're really talented fighters. I mean, obviously Central New York puts out quality fighters,
right?
So undefeated, but there are, I mean, and to see at the amateur level is, I mean, not for nothing. It's not something that I had the luxury of having.
Right.
Coming up, I fought everywhere else but New York. It was always on the road. You're always getting booed. And these guys are pulling in, 300 tickets sold for their local shows, 400 tickets, it's nuts. And they put on these wild events. And if you get a chance, go to local MMA. Go to it. It is so much fun. It might not be the most technical always, but what you do see are dudes just going balls out from bell to bell.
You see knockouts that you're probably not going to see in the.
I saw a full-on brainbuster WWF style suplex in an MMA fight.
Really?
Not even a joke. The guy had a guillotine up against the cage, right? And he started to walk up. I'm hand gesturing like people on the radio over here.
Yeah, right.
But you get it, and you'll laugh heartily.
Yeah, exactly.
So he starts to walk up the cage to try and escape it, and the guy ends up picking him up and flipping him over his head. It was amazing. You do not see that in anything
Sure
else.
isn't legal, but hey, it worked.
It was amazing.
That's awesome.
And then you get to, the guys afterwards come out in the crowd and they sit down and they talk to you, and it's awesome. And you see these guys at the beginning of their career, and, 2 out of every...
That's where it starts, man.
3, you get to see at a bigger show. And then 1 out of those 3, you get to see it at the big show.
Right.
And you get to go, I remember hanging out with him.
Right.
When he was an amateur in the crowd, and that's cool.
There you go, man. Make sure you check out local MMA. We'll start posting it, and maybe we'll make a Facebook page for this.
If I had any service down here, I would do some Googling.
No big deal. No big deal. But you know what? Next show, we'll get some of the local MMA.
We'll get some plugs for them.
Yeah, we'll do that. So here's the deal. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about 20th anniversary. We're going to talk about the victory cookie. We're going to talk about UFC and Bellator. Big fights coming up for both of those organizations. That is next right here on Crazy Smooth Combat Radio.
Yes, it's Nessie Marvin. No matter how hard he tries,
Oh, Marvin!
he always makes a mess. Except when he makes his chocolate milk. He uses good old-fashioned Hershey syrup in the no-mess bottle. Great-tasting, thick, rich chocolate flavor that Hershey always delivers without making a mess.
Excellent. Marvin.
Delicious Hershey syrup in the no-mess bottle.
All right, so check it out. We are back here, Crazy Smooth Combat Radio, episode number 2. We've chatted about a lot of things, including, of course, your last fight, of course, about legalizing MMA, and going with your last fight. Afterwards, you get a victory cookie.
This is an important tradition that's come through the Segru MMA program there. His wife makes the most phenomenal chocolate chip cookies that I've
you didn't bring me any. Do you not know how much
they're gone
cookies?
At this point.
Damn it.
She usually bakes trays and trays of them. I'm sure we could get a special request for a local celebrity.
Yeah, right.
And we go and we share them with the crew that's at the fights.
Right.
Usually the guys hosting it and things like that. And so now we've had like a list of really important people eating these cookies. We have a picture of Bjorn Rebney.
Yeah, I saw that.
Eating the cookies. We've got Sam Kaplan eating the cookies. It's nuts. So I have people now after my fight that are messaging me. People that used to the guy that drives around the Bellator vans.
Yeah.
He messaged me afterwards. He doesn't do it anymore. He's like, "Are you gonna mail me out some victory cookies?" So this is now like a countrywide phenomenon. It's just
she's gonna have to start baking a lot more.
Like, right?
We could make
trademark
this,
it. We're gonna turn it into
a trademark victory cookie.
Victory cookie. So
I don't know if that's trademark.
You're not allowed to have the cookies before the fight,
right?
Because that's generally not a good fuel.
No,
for a cage fight.
Really not.
It burns a bit quickly, but then afterwards, it's like your first crap food that you get in celebration,
right?
And it's a delicious homemade cookie.
I love it. And there's a whole lot of people that have victory love plus cookies. That's one, and we got some other stuff here. A whole lot of victory love and cookies from Denver. So I think we Dennis's wife may have a good. This is an in.
We got it. We got a future now. I got something to fall back on after this fighting thing's done.
If they're listening to this, we need to copyright this and make this happen. Okay, victory cookies.
Boom.
I love it.
It just happened.
It did. Only right here. We'll probably never make it go anywhere, but right here it's something.
Right here on Crazy Smooth Combat Radio, the birth of victory cookies.
The best is, Bjorn. The man behind Bellator.
Bellator, yeah. It's an epic picture. Yeah. She'd been trying to get him to him for a few fights now, and we just kept missing each other. And then it was actually just after this one. We were at the hotel bar afterwards. I had actually gone up to go to bed because you're tired after a cage fight.
Think?
and all of a sudden, my other corner man, he's also an upcoming pro heavyweight. Big Ed.
That's right.
Gets a text from Dennis. He's like, "Come down here and bring cookies now." So I just ran out of the room.
That's funny.
Went downstairs, brought the cookies, and there was the Bjorn Rebney. Bjorn.
Love it.
Big man in charge.
I think that's awesome, man. Victory cookies.
It's important. We have the local show. Another reason to go to local MMA shows. If our fighters are on that, if you got a Segru MMA and a Tai Kai guy, you're gonna have some victory cookies.
Is it Team Balance? There's so many things that you have.
Well, it's like a trickle down type thing. Team Balance is the head affiliation. They're a school out in Philadelphia, run by the Migliorese brothers.
All right.
Who are high level black belts under the Gracies.
Mm-hmm.
They lived with the Gracies for a while. All this, they're phenomenal. That's our affiliation. They're the ones that gave the black belt to Ken Cronenberg at Tai Kai. That's there. That's the link there. And then Segru MMA is the MMA program from Tai Kai. So,
gotcha.
There it is.
Look at
linkage.
That. It's right down the ladder.
Yeah, you just got to follow the breadcrumb.
The family tree.
Exactly.
There you go. All right, well, that's good. Now we know that, though.
And now, the more you know.
Look at that. Victory cookies come from here.
Yeah, and then victory cookies are down at the bottom there.
That's awesome. Learning so much today on Crazy Smooth Combat Radio. So check this out. Last week, the 20th anniversary of UFC, which basically is the grandfather of MMA at this point.
Yeah.
And a lot of the older guys are a little bit pissed because they didn't get interviewed in any of the stuff that played on Fox Sports 1.
Yeah.
And it's actually, to me, I never knew that they were in that dire straits when they first did The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
And
they were
kind of where they were
hemorrhaging
going. Yeah. And then, of course, obviously, the Forest and the fight, and it just exploded from there. But
they may be a competitor, but you obviously can't take away
you look
what
at
they've
MMA
done for the
whole,
sport. Yeah. What's the sport? We got to, we're bigger than individual things. They're obviously the ones that brought it to the eyes of the public. Sure, no holds barred, existed beforehand. Vale Tudo down in Brazil existed, but the first thing that everyone saw was UFC.
I can remember being on the old Scrambler.
Oh yeah,
we had the old Scrambler
with the big guy in the middle of the ring like that.
Yeah. The old, you were stealing cable at that point, pay-per-views and all that kind of stuff.
Art Jimerson's One Glove.
Yeah, dude, it's amazing. Tank Abbott. Come on,
Tank Abbott.
Who doesn't love Tank Abbott?
Did you get my comment the other day? By the way,
yeah,
all right.
Thanks, buddy.
You didn't
listen.
Like that.
It's soft. You know what I mean? You got a condition.
Well, I think his was tough. I think his absorbed the blows for him a lot.
He did. Then he tried to become a wrestler, and it really didn't go well. I'm sorry.
He lost to David
Arquette. Yeah, he lost to David. Yeah, there's your best part. You lost to David Arquette.
It's tough to come back from that.
No, it definitely is. But some names in the sport in general. Obviously, the Shamrock Brothers and all of that stuff. And Ken is actually, I saw an interview with him, and he is really pissed because he didn't get any sort of interview for this.
Well, I get that there's beef there, man, but you can't take away what they were to the sport.
No,
you know, Ken Shamrock was one of the most recognizable names early on. It's the name that people knew, and it helped that he had the pro wrestling background in Japan. He had the pro wrestling in America, the crossover. You know, he was one of the first ones to really do that. And then he brought along Dan Severn, who's so charismatic.
I beat people up. That's what I do.
And you know, he kind of set the stage for that. You know, you talk about Brock now. He was the Brock back then.
Right. Absolutely.
That was.
He could just fight better.
Yeah, he was just an actual fighter.
He could actually fight and not run people over.
Yeah, Brock was a large man.
Very big man.
Very
big man. I still
displaced much volume.
Watching
not
Kane
the most
whip his
technical.
ass was probably the best thing ever.
I don't know. Watching him get kicked right in the diverticulitis by. I feel like that's offensive. right in the liver.
Sounds like an offensive.
Right
term.
in the liver, you know, by right in the crippling disease you've had. It's harsh. I'm sorry, Brock, if you're out there, I'm sorry. You're probably not out there.
He's not listening to us.
I'm sorry.
We don't matter to anybody but ourselves.
Well,
that's all that matters.
I entertain myself.
Exactly.
4 or 5 other people.
Exactly.
That'll be good.
But yeah, man, 20 years. I mean, it's amazing just to sit back and now see where everything is gone. Obviously, those guys buying up some of the other promotions to get fighters and make fights and that kind of stuff. So
that's what, you know. Those are the guys. Those forefathers. You know, that's what they should be doing. Is they got some smaller leagues that they can open and things like that. You see a few try and go into management. Don't do that. You know, opening the smaller leagues, something that you know. You know how the fighters want to come up. You know how to present things. You know how things should feel. It's a good fit for a lot of them, you know. But with the 20th anniversary thing, it's dicey, man. You should give people the respect regardless of your feelings. I mean, that's what's going to separate you as a legit. That's what's going to legitimize MMA as a sport from a spectacle. You know, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want it to be a spectacle and you want the loud, crazy promos, okay. But if you want a pro sport like the NFL or like the NBA, there has to be a level of professionalism, and you have to give respect to people, even if you might not share a pleasant
It's one of those
opinion.
things where, like in my eyes, MMA and Bellator and UFC are bigger than boxing, even though it's not in an overall aspect.
Financial sense.
Right.
Guess.
You know what I'm saying? I just, to me, boxing is a dying sport. You know,
it's a common thought, but then you see these pay-per-views.
Right. I mean, Floyd Mayweather's making $44 million. Like, how is that even possible?
Fighter pay is an issue that we could touch on in another time.
we will. We'll get into that. But, you know, it's one of those things, you know, to us, I would much rather watch a night of MMA than to watch 12 rounds of some crappy boxing.
Well, it's
you know what
just,
I mean?
for me, the big thing, I mean, I tried boxing early on before I did MMA. And the big thing was how limited it felt, you know? Like, if you're just getting outboxed, you're screwed. You just get punched in the face for about 100,000 times, and then you talk funny for the rest of your life, and it's a bummer. But in MMA, there's that whole thing where, okay, this isn't working. Let's try a new plan. You know, let's try takedowns. Okay, those aren't working. Let's try kickboxing. Let's try clinching. There's always another tool at your disposal. No one's going to be the king of all trades, you know? And that's why it's exciting to watch. At any moment, something could change. A submission could get snapped off after someone gets their ass beat for 2.5 rounds,
exactly.
You know?
Oh, you're on the ground. Oh, here's a guillotine. Okay, night-night.
Boom. You know?
So there that is. And coming up this weekend is some pretty big cards in the world of MMA. Bellator. We'll talk about UFC first. We'll end with Bellator because obviously I'd like to end with where you're at. But GSP and Hendricks.
Huge card.
A lot of people are saying they've had the last 2 cards in the UFC have been pretty friggin' huge. I mean, when you're talking fights, you know, now you have this one.
Names, at least.
Right, name-wise. Exactly, name recognition. GSP and Hendricks going to be a pretty good fight. And then, of course, Evans. We'll start at the bottom. I can't pronounce the one guy's Boganatov. I don't know what the hell his name is. And Elliott. That'll be a good one. Koscheck, how the hell is he still in that
just
promotion?
Hanging around, man.
How is that even possible?
I don't know. You haven't heard much of him, and he's doing enough to keep
like a
his
fungus.
job. Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
He's like a fungus.
He's the ringworm of the UFC.
And then you got McDonald. He really is. McDonald and Lawler. Let's get in with Evans. We'll go right to Evans and Sonnen. What do you think?
I really hope Evans is back to being exciting. His last 2 or 3 have just been...
I think after the Jones fight...
Yeah. It's just been...
he hasn't been the same.
Well, when you get beat up like that, it's tough to right. You know, it takes a certain kind of mentality to really reboot and get back to going going at it, going hard. When you get rocked for the first time in your life, when you get dominated a little bit, you have to be able to reset your head and say, all right, well, that's that. I've learned from it, and now I'm still going to charge hard.
Right.
Sometimes you're going to roll the dice and win. Sometimes you're going to lose, but you have to keep charging hard. And I feel like he's kind of
in between.
Sit back now, and he doesn't commit to his punches quite as much as he used to. He doesn't commit to his wrestling quite as much.
Yep.
He's become much more a point fighter. And Sonnen is, a diehard wrestle grind guy. So this fight has the possibility to be really boring.
Pretty much.
The longer it stays on the feet, the more it's going to favor Evans. I mean, Evans has a phenomenal wrestling background. But if Chael can get it on the ground, I think he can just grind it out. He'll grind it out,
yeah.
Yeah.
Both guys lost to Jones. And we'll see if they can. This is kind of a reboot for both of them, I think.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's a reboot, but kind of a last chance.
Yeah, well, we talked about
Evans needs to get back up to being a number one contender and stop being kind of middling if he wants to do that again. And Sonnen, he needs to keep the wins piling on to keep climbing the ranks and hopefully break his number 2 streak. Yeah. Always a bridesmaid for Chow.
He'll never get there. It's not happening. So now you talk about Hendricks, who the kid drops bombs. I mean, just ridiculous bombs. And
he's got that kind of power that you just can't teach.
He's got beard power. That's what
he does have much beard power.
And then GSP, who dominated Diaz in the last fight that he had. So this one, I'm going to be honest with you, I'd like to see Hendricks win. I like the kid. You know what I mean? He seems fun, but George is just that technical guy that he's going to fight his fight. You know?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people are saying, well, GSP, he hasn't fought a guy that has the combination of the power and the wrestling that Hendricks has, because GSP's been able to, out-wrestle everyone. You're talking about a guy that could have been on the Olympic team if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Even though he never wrestled a day in his high school or collegiate life, he just decided to start doing wrestling and was that athletic and that good right off the bat. He could have been an Olympian. Versus Hendricks, who has a really hardcore college background. He's come up through the ranks and he's got it certified. People are going, well, GSP won't, be able to just wrestle him, because he's that good a wrestler. But yeah, I don't see Hendricks being able to land the bomb, and that's his thing. Is he lands those bombs because people have to worry about the ground game, and he uses that to get tight. I think GSP's jab will continue to be the dominant factor in his fight. I mean, that's what he's used in 2 or 3 fights now. People that were supposed to be coming in with, Koscheck was supposed to come in and throw his heavy hand and knock him out, and he could never get close enough to throw it, because every time he stepped in, he got his eye punched clean through the back of his skull. I just see, if it goes past I'd say halfway through the second, it's GSP's. If Hendricks doesn't land that big shot early and violently, then GSP's going to settle in, do his technical thing, and just pick him apart until the fight ends.
There you go. All right. So now we'll move on to Bellator. Obviously, this one was supposed to happen.
It's supposed to be Tito, who broke his neck. How do you break your neck training, man?
The best part about it is if you happen to catch TMZ and you listen to the my radio show on the air yesterday, his ex basically said he's a chump and a crybaby to the TMZ cameras in hopes that Rampage whoops his ass, and obviously she knew that they didn't fight. But I'll tell you what, man, I don't know how you break your neck. I really don't understand
it. That close. I mean, when you're winding down your fighting time, fight camp coming in 2-3 weeks, you kick up some cardio and then the physicality for a little bit, but then it's supposed to taper off, and then you're supposed to kind of just keep sharp.
I just don't think.
How do you break your neck,
I don't think he wanted a piece of Rampage.
I don't know.
Let's be honest.
I'm not gonna speculate on that. That's my weight class and co-competitors. I can't say too much.
I'll say it for you. Don't worry. Or I'll say it for myself. How about that? Maybe he didn't want to fight. Let's put it this way: Tito is not what Tito used to be. And you can't take that away. Of age, you know what I mean?
I mean, that's
dude was dominant.
You've been doing it for so long. That's your body's going to break down, man. I mean, hell, I've only been, fighting for 4 or 5 years, and believe me, I feel it a lot more than I used to, man.
That's age.
It takes toll on the body, dude.
After a time
brutal.
of football too, that kind of does.
14, 15, whatever years.
So we'll start at the bottom. Galvo versus McKenna, bantamweight feature.
Yeah.
What is it? Galvao?
Yeah, Galvao.
Is that you would know that?
Portuguese.
I will listen. I will murder names. It does. I mean, it's kind of how I do things. What do you think about this one? Do you have any? Is this one of the ones where you kind of don't know the guys?
No, if I'm thinking of the right Galvao,
here, I'll give you the sheet there, buddy.
Open it up on the page. I want to make sure I have the right Galvao because I feel like that's a common enough last name in Brazil, Brasileia. Yeah, Marcos. Yeah, no, I got to pick Galvao. Yeah, he's just so fast and so explosive.
All right, now you're looking at the featherweight tournament final. Pitbull versus Wilcox. Pitbull is the kid's crazy.
Yeah, no, he was actually backstage with us last fight. He's sporting a beard, so I'm giving it to him right now. He's got a beard
just
right now.
Because he has a beard.
That is, but again, he's one of those ones. He was a house on fire early on, and he's got a kind of sun disease. He won a few tournaments.
Yep.
And just can never quite
always
cinch it up at the end.
Yeah. All right, there's the bridesmaid.
But I see him being able to at least get back to his tournament final spot here. He is just, again, he's got KO power that is uncommon for featherweights. He's just one-hit knockout power, and that's being small enough to fit in my pocket. So it's nuts.
I just want some. That's all. Just a little. Now we're talking about the big boys. I don't understand, I guess, the weight-wise in this one. The heavyweight title fight. Minakov, who's 265, and then you're looking at Volkov, who's 225.
He's tiny. He's a tiny heavyweight.
I don't quite understand how he's in the heavyweight category.
Well, you can't take it away from him. He faced who was it? It was recently. It was one of his. It was his first defense. Broke his opponent's arms with a kick.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
And he's only 220. But he's so tall and so lengthy. He uses it perfectly for a tall person.
He's the heavyweight champ, so
yeah.
I mean...
He keeps people at the end of his jab. He keeps people at the end of the jab. He moves real well for a heavyweight. And being that tall, people don't land a lot of solid shots, and he's apparently got really powerful kicks.
Really, the 225
it's tiny for a heavyweight.
Yeah.
But
I guess when we're used to seeing the Velasquez, the Canes, the Del Santos...
When you even talk about... you see Brock, you see Velasquez,
Big,
260, 250, 260, 250, 245.
Yep.
To see a heavyweight holding the title at 220 is just, it is weird. But he's Russian, which is also kind of cheating.
Kane is 240, so I mean, but this guy...
But 20 pounds is a huge difference.
It really is.
Let's pause here and just, this is something,
I guess
my training partners are...
I've never fought, so to me, I used to beat on little kids as an offensive lineman playing defensive lineman, so weight-wise for me isn't a big deal, but obviously in fighting it becomes
it's a huge deal, man. I mean, you're talking about 20 pounds, that's 2-3 weight classes, For me, I have to spar with a lot of heavyweights. We don't have many light heavyweights, so I'm always playing with the heavyweights.
Right.
And I forget sometimes that there's a 30 to 40 pound weight difference until I get taken down by one of them. And when you have a 40-pound difference on a pro fighter that weighs 40 pounds more
on top of you,
you become very aware of the difference in weight.
Very quickly. I can't breathe.
There are just certain things that they can do that work because they're massive.
Right.
And so, yeah.
All right.
I don't think we've covered who we thought would win.
Minakov or Volkov?
Oddly, I think I got to stick with Volkov retaining.
Okay. All right, retaining the title?
Just because he's technical. He's real technical, real quick, moves well, keeps people on the end of his punch, and apparently kicks like a mule. So,
Ow and ow. And then, of course, the light heavyweight feature, the main fight, Rampage's first fight in Bellator against his new opponent, Joey Beltran. And Beltran.
The Mexicutioner.
Yes. And this one's going to be, I think it's going to stay on its feet, and they're going to throw bombs.
Yes. Well, I mean, that was the big thing that, Rampage started to struggle with, was people just kept taking him down and jiu-jitsuing him and wrestling him, and it made him very mad. But I don't see that happening here. No, this is going to be a stand-up fight that should be very exciting.
First round.
First few minutes.
Yep, somebody's going night-night. So,
and I actually am gonna give it to Rampage. I think that he's just got the power.
All right,
he's got enough knockout power left in him.
going back to last weekend, and not your guys' fights, but Vitor and Hendo.
Yeah.
Were you surprised Hendo got kicked in the face? And
kind of, but not really. I mean, I love Hendo. He's awesome. You know, he's a good person.
It's time to hang it up, though.
But yeah, I mean, he's what, 42?
Yeah, 43.
Something like that. He's
50, almost 45 fights or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. You make your last big run. Sometimes it didn't work out, and that's a bummer. But you know, you could see it in the fight before that. He just didn't have quite the same pop. He didn't have the H bomb firing quick as powerful as it used to. And
he catches you, but that's a big if.
And now it's a lot slower coming in, and Vitor is quite explosive still.
Yeah. Well, that's going to wrap things up here for this edition, episode 2 of Crazy Smooth Combat Radio. Obviously, get yourself a victory cookie. Okay? That is a very big thing. And hit the select button.
You got to hit the select button. That gives you the extra stamina.
Yes.
Join the Nintendo Fun Club today, Mac.
Do that, man. As always, my brother, appreciate it. Facebook, Twitter, Crazy Mike Musatelli, yours truly, Big Smoothie. And we always seem to go long because we talk a lot between the two of us. So,
we do.
But that's good. So hopefully you check this out.
Open to tips.
Actually,
you know, any topics you want to talk about,
we'll talk
throw it
about
out
anything.
there.
We don't care.
Send me a message. I respond to everything.
Oh, boy. He's got a lot of time on his hands.
I do.
So do I, though, so I can't complain about
healing.
that. We'll see you next time.
All right, show's over. I'm tired.